people who are feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, like this lady was feeling, like there's nothing to be grateful for. What's the first thing that they might be able to do to begin to change their mindset?
We have all these little things to be grateful for all the time, and we don't pay attention. And when we are feeling grateful, it's such a high vibration. It raises us up. It fills up our heart. It expands us out. Instead of being all contracted in fear and stress about what's happening in the world, we're more expanded out. And from that space, so much more is possible.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe.
Well, as I've said before, and I will continue to say, we are living in interesting times. And one of the things that I find most interesting is how everybody seems to be dealing with what's happening. And, there's two schools of thought. Some people think that we should just feed into our lesser angels and let them have it. And there's others that want to feed into our greater angels and find a way to kind of coexist, even though we might be polarized in some areas of our lives. And that's why I'm so glad to have our discussion with Arlene Cohen-Miller. She just brings a wealth of training and experience to help you compassionately and wholeheartedly lead yourself and create a life that works and feels right for you. And I think that she's a work-life balance coach and a professional certified coach from the International Coaching Federation. And I think, Arlene, it makes such a huge difference to be able to operate and be able to maneuver what's going on from a positive perspective instead of a negative one, because Lord knows we can certainly stay in the negativity. So I am so glad to have you here on the V.I.B.E. Living Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. That was a lovely introduction. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I have to ask you, first of all, how did you get into the whole idea of work-life balance? First of all, you're a lawyer. That right there alone tells me a lot. My first husband was a lawyer, and work-life balance is like, no, just non-existent. So that right there could have been a motivator. But how did you get so passionate about that topic?
Yeah, well, I graduated from law school. I was married to my ex-husband was in medical school at the same time, and we moved from from Lexington, Kentucky, where he was in medical school. I was in law school, up to Cleveland, Ohio, so that he could do his residency up there. And so all of our family was in Kentucky. All of my peers from law school were in Kentucky or Indiana. And after a couple of years, I opened my own business on a little main street in Lakewood, Ohio, the west side of the Cuyahoga River, and immediately found out that I was pregnant. And so I had no tribe there, and there were no coaches then. You could have a counselor, you could have a psychologist, but that really wasn't what I needed. So I had to form my own tribe and figure out how the heck am I gonna get this business off the ground, be a mother without, the kind of support that I was used to, family, parents, peers, nothing there. And so I sort of did it from scratch. It wasn't easy. And I guess that's why I became so passionate about, helping people with work-life balance. And I bring in that word harmony as well, because I don't really like the feeling of the scales of justice, because it feels to me like work-life balance is more about being flexible and adaptable, because we're constantly changing and evolving and growing. And so if we try to balance everything out, we're going to feel like we're doing something wrong.
This is true. And it's interesting because some people because we're going to talk about gratitude today. I'm just going to let everybody, this is what we're going to be talking about. And the reason why, because we could have talked about so many different things, but the reason why is that I know that gratitude, or operating in gratitude, ushers in a certain kind of energy that can kind of eradicate that negative energy. But what does fostering gratitude or operating in gratitude have to do with work-life balance?
Everything. It has everything to do with everything in our life, because if we're coming from a space not of head gratitude, where I'm writing this gratitude list and we're doing this little checklist and we're grateful for all this, that doesn't change anything. When we're really, really, truly grateful for the blessings in our life, and starting with the foundations, I have a roof over my head. I have a nice bed to sleep in. I have heat. I have running water. I have food in the fridge and the pantry. I have people that love me and I love them. If we start with, instead of looking for things to be grateful for and just knowing that we already have so many things in our life to be grateful for. I love this comfy chair I sit in all the time. It's my workstation. All those little things or I'm having this conversation with you and there's all the pretty pictures of your family on the wall, just makes me smile. We have all these little things to be grateful for all the time, and we don't pay attention. And when we
Isn't that
are feeling
interesting?
grateful, it's such a high vibration. It raises us up. It fills up our heart. It expands us out instead of being all contracted in fear and stress about what's happening in the world. We're more expanded out. And from that space, so much more is possible.
I have to share something with you when you're talking about the simple things. I had a client once who was suffering from anxiety and really felt like everything in her life was falling apart. And I said, well, just try to think of one thing that you're grateful for, just one thing. And I challenge you to do that for our next meeting, which was a week later. Next meeting, nothing on the journal, couldn't think of anything. And I said, well, okay. I mean, there's got to be something in your life, however small, that you're grateful for. And she says, well, my nail polish isn't chipped. I said, okay, write that down. I know it was a small thing, but that was the space that she was in, right? That was a
Right.
small thing. But then she said, oh, you mean things like that? And I said, yeah. And so she started, journaling the simple things, like you said. That was like about 6 years ago. She now has, because she stays in touch with me, she sends me a card every Christmas. And she is
Oh,
now up to something like 20 journals of gratitude. And because I have found that what you think about, what you ponder on, really does come to pass. And next thing you know, you've all these other things start happening that you can be grateful
right.
for. And that's why I wanted to talk about that. So for people who are feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, like this lady was feeling, like there's nothing to be grateful for. What's the first thing that they might be able to do to begin to change their mindset?
For me, when I feel like that, when I feel really stressed, I say, get the heck away from your computer and your cell phone. Put it
Mm.
down, maybe go outside and just enjoy and appreciate nature. If there's some place like that, if it's not too cold like it is right now. Or maybe there's just a friend you like to have lunch with, or there's some activity that you love to do. For me, my yoga practice is like my saving grace. When I was younger, I liked to run. It just helps me to physiologically move my body. Some of my friends love knitting or gardening, or it can be anything, playing the guitar, music, listening to music, dancing around your house, whatever it is that takes you out of what you're focusing on. Because when you're focusing on how bad you feel, you're not working with the law of attraction, which is what you focus on is what you get in your life, which is what gratitude gives you, which is what you're talking about. When you're focusing on all those things you're grateful for, then you get more things to be grateful for when you're really doing it from the heart. And so I really agree. Focus on one thing. It might be like, I feel really grubby. I'm going to go take a hot shower and just really, really enjoy that shower. I mean, how many people don't have running water on this planet? We get
Oh
to
my
have a hot
God.
shower or bath anytime we want.
I can remember
Um,
a time, oh, this was maybe about 13 or 14 years ago, where there's something going on and they had to cut off the water, and the water was going to be cut off for longer than what they told us. Otherwise, we would have gone to a hotel. And by about the third hour, and it was actually, we were out of water for like 10 hours, but by the third hour, I was going nuts. I kept going to turn on, because these are things you automatically think about. But it taught me something about being grateful for those things that you just automatically take for granted. And, I know that a lot of times we can get cranky and irritable about things that are going on in our lives. And it's almost like we need a reset sometimes in how we're thinking. Any suggestions on how we can reset our mindset or refresh our batteries and move on to something else?
I don't know. I was going to give you one of my typical tips and tools, but this feels more like a more feeling experience that might help your audience. When I was 32, my son was 2, and I was pregnant, and I had a really bad miscarriage. And I ended up in the hospital for a week, like all this blood coming out of me. My mother flew up to help me bring my son to see me. I wasn't going to die or anything. It was heartbreaking. It was difficult. And I had my business was still in its infancy. I couldn't do anything with it. And it's like I had this epiphany, about how precious life is even
Mhm.
though I had lost, I mean, the child never really attached, so it was never really there. And it was something to go through, but I just like, well, I'm here. Life goes on without me. What do I really want to do with my life? And it really, and my mother just being there and bringing my son to me every day, there was so much in that love to be grateful for. And the whole experience just went, wow, Arlene, what do you really want to do with your life? What's really important for you? Are you going to focus on, this one loss? Yes, let's feel through it. But it just gave me this feeling of like, wow, this is heartbreaking. The world is going on without me while I'm in the hospital. Let's do something more with the life when there is more gratitude and more appreciation for everything that's there. And I don't know, maybe this story will help some of your listeners go, well, I've had that kind of experience, maybe not the same one, where
Mhm.
something's happened and it's been really difficult or devastating or challenging. And
Mhm.
we made it through it to the other side. And it can really give us appreciation. We have this life. Let's work with it positively. Let's bring in the gratitude. It's not like we're ignoring all those other feelings. We're feeling them, we're letting them move through us, but we're focusing on what we're moving towards, and that's being really thankful and grateful for our life and what we have in it.
Absolutely. And when we get back, I've got another question to ask you that really I need to know about. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Ladies, are you ready to vibe your life? The Vibe Wellness Woman Network is your go-to space for holistic health, empowerment, and community, created just for women over 40. Inside, you'll find expert-led workshops, wellness challenges, and exclusive coaching, and a sisterhood that supports your journey to being vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered. Join today and get access to fitness tips, spiritual renewal, menopause support, and more, all designed to help you thrive in midlife and beyond. Visit thevibewellnesswomannetwork.com and start your journey to wellness today. Okay, we were just talking before the break about, gratitude and everything else. But here's another thing that kind of will feed into it because I think this can happen if you don't ever exercise gratitude. And I have struggled with it running my business for 18 years. How do you avoid burnout? It's such a basic question, but I'm sure inquiring minds, all of us want to know, especially in midlife, because I think we get burned out in a lot of things in midlife because we've been doing a lot of things for a long time. How do we avoid it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really, really simple. It's like when I was an attorney at my desk, as a young attorney, I ignored my own voice. It's like I would get to the office, and I would leave early to pick up my son from school and maybe do some work at home. I sort of rearranged my schedule, but I would do like a couple of projects or a couple of things that were really important on my desk. And the human bit of me was going, we need a break. We need a break. We need a break. We've done some stuff. And I go, oh, I mean, this wouldn't be outside. This would be inside my head. Where I just would plow through it. I wouldn't listen to my own knowing. So if we do a couple of things, it's important to stop, acknowledge ourselves for what we have completed, especially if we've taken care of those things that we really didn't want to do at the top of our list and we got them done. Acknowledge it, either celebrate it, kind of a little happy dance inside, or maybe do something for ourselves later on and take a break. Even if it's 5, 10, or 15 or 20 minutes, just to refresh ourselves, get ourselves away from like the computer, which is not the best energy for us. Maybe just go sit outside or do something that sort of is relaxed or chill thing for us just to decompress, breathe, and then come back. Or sometimes if we're really stressed out, maybe we take an hour and do something, we listen to ourselves, we listen to our own knowing. There's no science to it. The problem is that oftentimes we're telling ourselves what we need to do and we're just going, no, 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 it's all okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that reminds me of something else because I think that one of the messaging I want to do for 2025 is the importance of women making themselves a high priority. I mean, a really high priority. Number one on your to-do list should be you. Absolutely, especially at this stage of life, because for such a long time we've been pouring out to other people. We have so many roles that we play, and mother, wife, daughter, sister, neighbor, employee, all these different things that we do. And everybody, because we have a tendency to be the nurturers with their, hands open towards you, like help me, and you're trying to follow suit to take care of the people that you care about. But somewhere along the line, we put ourselves so far on the back burner that when we're ready or we know we need to address it, it's difficult for us to find ourselves again in the right way without feeling selfish or guilty. So, what do you say about that when women feel selfish and guilty about the idea
Right.
of taking some time for themselves?
Well, here's the bottom line. The bottom common sense line is that we cannot give from an empty cup. We have to do things every single day to fill ourselves up with love. And I
Mhm.
like to visualize it as a cup I'm filling up with love. And then there's this overflow coming out of the cup. And that's what I'm sharing with other people. But my cup is always filled up with love. If we don't do that, the cup is going to get empty. We're going to get frustrated, angry, upset. We're going to probably take it out on other people, then feel guilty, and then go back into the doormat, I have to please everybody mode. And so it's going to be this cycle of going around and around and around. And it's not good for us. And it's not good for the people that we love and care about. So the bottom line is this myth about guilt and selfishness that has come out from somewhere that either we've imposed on ourselves or has been imposed on us and feel like it's being passed down genetically from generation to
From
generation.
generation to generation, right?
We can say, no way. I'm stopping that right here, right now. I'm going
I
to experience
so
and model
agree.
something different.
I so agree with you. It's interesting because we do have these cycles that are can be generational, but we can be the stopgap measure for that. We can stop that cycle. I know my daughters and I were talking about generational wealth and kinds of things that we want to do moving forward. And their feeling was that one of the things they wanted to do was to begin the cycle of generational wealth by purchasing property together as a sister unit. I have four daughters. They're all in their, well, one just turned 40, the rest are in their 30s. And the idea was to find a place that they could call their community home. So that if anybody needs a place to stay when they're in between homes or whatever, they'll have this place. And the whole idea was to break the cycle of maybe being anxious about the what ifs and everything else, because I believe that anxiety has a tendency to run in my family. And so that's their gap measure in terms of financial anxiety. But I loved what you said about that, we really owe it to ourselves. And you know what? If you get stuck on the idea of taking time for yourself, look at it this way. You're doing that so that you can continue to be there for everybody else. If you just can't do it for yourself. But my hope is that over time, women will begin that journey of not having to justify or rationalize it. I mean, no is a complete sentence. We don't have to say the reason why and or go into self-recrimination once we said no, which is something that I used to do. As I said, my daughter's in my 30s, and I still had umbilical cords tied to all of them until the baby girl moved so far away with her children that it was just impossible for me to be a helicopter parent. It's ridiculous. And my other three were in different states too, but I was still, but I had to let that go. And once I really realized I was being a helicopter parent to adult children, I realized that this is crazy. Let me be grateful that they are adults and taking care of themselves and doing just great instead of wondering about what's going to go wrong. I think we sometimes have a tendency to want to control the outcome.
Yeah. And worrying is praying for what we don't want to have happen. Because I can remember my grandmother, my mother's mother, saying to me that it's my job to worry about you. And I'm like, do that. But
Is that something that's so funny? You're right. You do hear older people say that, or the parents say that, and all that. And the reality is that's kind of, I don't want to say wrong thinking, but there's a better way to put it. And I'm so glad you came on to the Vibe Wellness Journey. My goodness, Wellness Journey was my other podcast, the Vibe Living podcast. And I want to tell all of our listeners, if you're feeling out of balance and feeling guilty, anxious, and stressed, and you're wondering, okay, where do I go from here? Considering, getting in touch with Arlene, the name of her company is jewelconsultancy.com, and her links are there on the show page, along with her other social media links. It's been a delightful having you here. I'm glad we connected, got the time zone correct, all of that.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's okay. It happens more times than you think. And this is so funny because sometimes we forget to say PST because believe it or not everybody lives in my world. This is a global operation we have going here, but it's been wonderful having you. And thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And thank you to all of you who are listening. I'm so happy that you decided to stop by because I know there's a lot of podcasts that are out there. And I would really appreciate if you would take the time to, like, share, and subscribe and comment. Let me know the other kinds of topics that you would like to see on the Vibe Living podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Have a fantastic day. And don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Vibe Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.